Good afternoon. My name is Brian Garvey, and I'm with Flexient. I look after their distribution and channels. By way of background, I've been in the IT industry for some 25, 30 years. I started out by running my own businesses, selling microchips, PC compatibles, whatever. Ended up doing IT outsourcing for large American companies and became an IT director for Documentum, for those of you that know them. And then more recently have worked at Rackspace for some 6.5 years in many different roles. I was headhunted in to set up their channel and alliances team. And we took that in the space of 2 years from having 20 partners to 320 partners to increase the reach and sales of what we did. I ran the Benelux team for Rackspace for 2 years, again to expand over there. And then more recently worked in their OpenStack team, looking at how we could internationalize OpenStack and take it to market in terms of private cloud. And I guess that from that, I have a deep understanding of what cloud is and why you would want to go and enable a reseller channel, either to help you sell cloud software as Flexient is doing, or to sell cloud to end users as people like Rackspace and Amazon are doing. And it starts really from this first premise of why is cloud such a fast-growing market? And I think there are really 3 elements to it. The first is that users are looking for easier on-demand computing. Test development people don't want to have to wait weeks or months for their IT department to go and set up an environment for them. They want to be able to use a credit card simply to go and get the resources they want immediately. And indeed, in the corporate world, it's becoming a problem because people are going and doing that and circumventing all the security and all the finance rules that companies have in place around governance and security. The CFOs are looking for a way in these austere times of preserving their cash. They don't want to go out and buy more expensive SANs or servers. Storage is still growing as quickly as it always has. What they want to do is to move that from a CapEx cost into a monthly operational expenditure. And that's what cloud allows them to do. And the third thing is that CEOs and companies in general are looking at cloud in terms of its agility. If you look at some of the companies that have come to the market, such as Facebook, etc., it's the agility of using the internet that has allowed them to grab market share much more quickly, perhaps, than traditional companies are doing. And therefore, it's a threat to companies that are existing, because if they don't do something about cloud, at some point, they'll find their market is gone. So therefore, CEOs are looking at how it gives them that agility and competitive advantage. You might say, well, tell me, how is cloud growing? Why is everybody so interested in this market? And I think really it's about, if you go and look at Amazon and Rackspace, Amazon don't publish their figures, so we can't really tell how quickly they're growing. We can guess, but Rackspace does. And if you look at, that scenario, I joined in 2005, they went public in 2008. In 2008, their capitalization was 1.14 billion. Their capitalization today is 10.5 billion. That is a huge, huge growth. That sort of demonstrates that there's a real appetite for cloud out there. I like this analogy of what is cloud. For the user, this is what cloud is. You look at a watch, you tell the time. That's what it does. And cloud is very similar. A user wants a server, he clicks a button, it's there immediately, puts in a credit card, we're all used to doing that. So it's very, very simple. Some clouds are more complex. You get pocket watches now that will tell you the distance to a golf hole, how far you've run, your pulse, your blood pressure. So those are what I would call differentiated services that have come out from what was a simple premise of I'm just going to go and click and turn on the server to business applications that now run on cloud. And again, if you start to think about that, that is a big channel opportunity. You don't want to be competing with the likes of Amazon. What you want to be doing is differentiating yourself in the market and going after very specific either verticals or regions or whatever. The challenge with cloud, if you are trying to deliver it through to end customers is that often there's a lot of legacy involved. So you're trying to shoehorn something that you have done in the past into something new that is cloud. And actually, when you think about that with partners, in the past, the partner would go to a distributor, sell his software, a customer would buy it, they go and set up their servers. So there's a nice chain of how you would deliver. The new world of cloud is very, very different. It's actually about how can you deliver it now and quickly, and how do you enable your channel? You look at the margins that are made by going to people like Amazon and Rackspace, they're wafer thin. So it's about how do you go and build and sell your cloud services into new markets. There's another piece that I would say here, and that is that this cloud opportunity is about now, it's about today. If you're going to offer cloud services into your markets, you have to be doing this now. This isn't a long-term project where you turn around and do lots of development work and go and try and work out what the cloud user, what the channel partners need, etc. You need to be working that out now and being able to deliver it now. Because if you come back in 2 years' time, the market leaders would have grabbed that market share. If you're a managed hosting company, Amazon, Rackspace, and other cloud providers, some of which are provided by Flexient, will be eating away at that managed hosting revenue as people move to cloud. And once they move there and find out how easy it is to use, you'll find it very hard to win them back again. So the opportunity is about how quickly can you get there and how can you maximize your global reach. I like this analogy as well. You know, a railway is a bit like the internet. It's the same for everybody, but it's about how do you differentiate your services. There are off-peak, first class, second class. People like Virgin have created a market sector for themselves by differentiating. So you have to try and work out, when you go to market through partners, is there a specific vertical you're aiming to go and capture? It might be legal, might be oil and gas, it might be telco, whatever that is. It might be mobile phones. But the key piece is that you have to start thinking about differentiating yourself. Because if you don't, all you're doing is competing on price and you're racing to the bottom. I actually think now, on seeing the show this year, that, you know, when I first started talking about cloud, it was security and scalability. Now it's about how do I differentiate myself in the market. Originally, people thought Google, Microsoft, Amazon, 3 companies, they'd own everything. But as you can see from the number of vendors here, that the market is maturing and people are starting to understand what it really means. Customers are voting with their feet and saying, we want cloud services. In terms of that thing about how do we get there quickly, one of the trends that we're seeing in the market at Flexient is that people have gone through building their own cloud. It was a very, very painful process. But a lot of those companies are now coming back in the market and saying, we now need to go and develop something different, maybe a reseller channel, maybe white labeling. And they're saying, we don't want to go through the pain of actually developing that. And once we've developed it, keep it up to date. Because it's very, very costly, very expensive. And as you can see here, there are a number, this has come from an Infotech report in Q4 of 2012. You'll see you've got OpenStack, Citrix, VMware, we all know VMware, Flexient and so on. These are what Infotech consider the market leaders if you want to build a cloud are today. Because they're people that have an interest in developing a cloud platform that you can then base your other differentiated services on. So one of the challenges that I tend to see is that people build a cloud and they think people will come. It doesn't work that way. You would actually do far better spending your time and money instead of spending it on building the technology platform, working out your sales and marketing plans and bringing your company together to say what is going to be our cloud policy, either as a reseller or as a provider of cloud into those resellers. What are the services that we need that will help us differentiate in that market? And again, I think of it in terms of an airline analogy. An aeroplane goes from A to B. The job is to actually move a customer from one country to another or one destination to another. Think of the aeroplane almost as like the internet is the enabling technology. But actually it's the airports at either end that are not owned by the airline that actually provide all the services like the check-in, check-out, customs, shopping. Think of that in the same analogy that when you want to go in terms of into different countries and regions, because cloud is cross-country, cross-currency, cross-language, how do you use resellers in different countries to go and sell your services by adding them to theirs or becoming agents or whatever that might be? You don't go and put your own sales force into those countries. You can enable those providers, like the airlines have done with airports, to go and help them reduce the cost. There are lots of different models. Here is a direct approach where you have direct. If you're selling cloud, this is a very inefficient route because your salespeople talk to their salespeople. There's only a limited number of people they can talk to. In terms of, this is an ISV platform, traditional model. You suddenly decide, okay, we'll put partner account managers in. Again, it's a very efficient use. Flexient has a customer, for example, in Holland, who have 50,000 resellers. Now, if you have 50,000 resellers selling what you did as a partner ecosystem, that's a far, far quicker way at getting to market than it is creating your own sales force or doing tons and tons of marketing. Resellers can increase your market size and your market reach because they can do localization either on culture or currency or language. But it's not easy to do in cloud. And part of the reason for that is that you need to find ways of automating some of those manual processes. So for example, if you're reselling cloud, think about how you differentiate yourself against someone like Amazon by creating reseller white labeling. I mentioned the 50,000 resellers. Every one of those resellers is going to want their own web portal with their own logos, their own colors, their own billing system with their own invoice layout and maybe copyright and other things on it. If you had to go for every one of those 50,000 resellers and do it yourself, you just couldn't achieve it. So therefore your platform needs to be able to automate that and let the resellers do that for themselves. So they can drag and drop logos, they can go and put copyright pieces on. You also, so the customization piece is very, very important. You also need to help those resellers work out what their market is. You might have a reseller that is doing test dev, and their end customer wants root access so that they can go and design a cloud application. But you may have another reseller that just wants to go and have his end customers hit a button and turn on, I don't know, SharePoint or vSphere or VMware or you know, a business application. And then when they're finished with it, hit another button, turn it off, and only get billed for that particular piece. You need to be able to look at how you go and granularly meter and bill across those platforms, because you need to be able to go and talk about multi-currency, multi-language. You might want to go and expand and put data centers in different countries and regions as your markets start to expand. So whatever platform you have has to be capable of seeing all of that at the top level as a pane of glass. And then each of the resellers sitting underneath that and their resellers or end users underneath have to be able to see what they want to see, but everything being controlled from that one panel. And the last thing, and we'll go into this in a bit more detail with a couple of war stories, is about the accurate and detailed reporting. It's no good building a cloud platform and saying, well, we think we're going to use this much bandwidth and this much storage, if you haven't worked out that that customer over there is using a lot more than that guy over there. And therefore, actually, you can charge him less and him more. So you would have thought that doing reseller in cloud is very easy, but we've started to just touch on some of the things that make it hard. It can be hard to white label. You know, you look at Amazon, can't do it. The margins you make on Amazon are wafer thin. You look at multi-currency. Could that be a differentiator? Because customers in your country want to buy in your local language. They don't want to buy in dollars and then find that the dollar's gone from $2 to the pound to 160. and the pricing has become very, very skewed. They want repeatability. There's a piece about not leaving sales revenue on the table, and again, that comes back to this thing that if you don't do something, your competitors will. And therefore, you may find that those competitors have a massive leap in the market, and partly that is due to the fact that cloud can be very fast and very agile. There are new startups, generally when there's a recession, you see hundreds and thousands of new startups. They don't happen in the good times often, but when people are sitting there going, what do I want to, I've always had this vision that I wanted to create the next Microsoft or Facebook. And we touch on this thing about it's very easy to become very successful. We have a war story about somebody that developed their own cloud platform. And their CFO was really happy because he did £200,000 of the revenue. The only problem was that he didn't know that only 5,000 of that was real. The rest of it was on fraudulent credit cards, etc. It was only when the chargeback started coming in that he realized suddenly he had a problem. Now you start thinking about that with resellers and their resellers or end users, and that problem becomes even harder. And actually the interesting thing was that what Flexion did, and I didn't know this until recently, was that we went and designed a platform whereby if you use the billing system that is inherent and payment gateways that are available through the integrations, we can actually see if a credit card is maybe from being used in Nigeria through the IP address, and the credit card holder lives in the US or the UK. And we can go and flag that from a security point of view, saying this could be a dodgy transaction, you need to watch it. Then what we can also do is create a hashtag from that particular credit card. We don't store the credit card details, we create a hashtag. So if that credit card is ever used again, we'll pick that up and decline the transaction. So one of the things you have to think about in terms of resellers is how do you build those type of, are you going to build it yourself? Are you going to go through that learning of doing the business and finding that it's not real? Or your resellers not being able to pay you because they've done that £200,000 of the business and they can't pay you because they've just gone out of business? Or are you going to go and rely on somebody to go and help you design that into the platform from the beginning? The next piece is about cloud enablement. And it's about build your production cloud in days. We often talk to techs who really want to improve their CV by going and building their own cloud. Actually, that's not the key thing. It's about get it done in days. If you can build your cloud in a couple of days, then get it there and running, learn, gain your experience. Then if you decide that it doesn't do what you wanted to do, in your second or third iteration, you maybe can make different decisions. What you don't want to do is to go and build your cloud platform. It takes you 6 months, a year, 18 months, and then you find that the customers that you've been going after aren't a customer market that you can go and attack. It's far better to go and get that built and then get your sales and marketing to tell you what the market propositions should be going out into those particular verticals, be it legal or whatever they are. You must be able to manage multiple hypervisors, DCs, and clusters from the same platform. You don't want a different platform that your techs have got to go and log on to in all the geographic regions. You want it to be a single pane of glass that both you, your resellers, and your users can use to actually provision and bill and manage those particular cloud instances. And you need to build that accurate P&L cost control. So I mean, one of the things I always love about the company that I work for is that we can actually tell you by the VM how much bandwidth somebody is using. That's how granular the billing is. Not only we can tell you CPU and storage and all those things, but it's about how granular is that, so you can start building your CFO can build your financial model that actually helps you build an accurate P&L cost control. I always remember years ago when I had my own business, I went into one of our customers that owed us a lot of money. And we were thinking about whether we could turn them round and help them trade out. So I spent my day going and looking at the debtors and the creditors and the stock, and they had a massive, massive order book. And I came out of it at the end of the day saying, well, I think we can trade them out. The VC angel that I took into them spent his day analyzing the widget. In this case, it would be a cloud instance. And he worked out exactly what it cost them to make and deliver. And I said, what did you think? And he said, well, actually, if they deliver the order book, they're going to go bust more quickly because every one they do, they're losing money on. So the key piece in cloud is that if you don't know that, the more successful you become, the more quickly you could go bust. And that's for both you and your resellers. These are just 2 comments to go and highlight this point. 2 customers that we have. IS Group, literally, they had a complete cloud platform that did VMware, Hyper-V, and Linux, delivered in 2 days. So rather than going through all the technical stuff, they got it up and running, and then said to their sales and marketing and salespeople, let's go sell this. Let's go and find out what that market is. Doesn't cost much to do if you buy the software ready built. If you go and try and develop it yourself, and I do a lot of consulting around helping VCs understand the managed service provider market. And for me, the key about cloud is how do you get there quickly? The VCs say, well, the CTO wants to go and develop his own cloud product. And you just turn around and say, why are you doing that? Because not only once they've developed it, and by the way, the project may fail or it gets longer, you've got an open checkbook, and once they've done it, you've now got to keep pace with technology, and that checkbook keeps churning away and you keep spending money. You should be spending that money on sales and marketing and getting your name out into the marketplace and looking for those specific verticals that some are there already, but some we don't even know about. So the key takeaways for me is this is actually about speed to market. Do it quickly, get there fast, go and make your real efforts around sales and marketing. Stop costly mistakes by testing the market now. Get it up and running in 2 days. Actually, the technology is unimportant as long as it delivers what you need from a functional point of view. Even the cost of it. You know, everybody talks about open source is free. I know from my experience at OpenStack that it's not. You will end up with a massive consulting project trying to do what Flexion does that costs you lots of money and takes time. And then use easy build solutions which reduce your project complexity. That's the key message from me today. Are there any questions, and does this sort of seek a resonance with you? Is it something different that maybe you haven't heard before? Do you have any questions? Well, I know this is a lunchtime session, so what I'd like to do is say thank you very much indeed for coming along. Flexient is a sponsor here at Cloud Expo. Come to our stand, come and see us. We'll take you up for coffee. For some reason, because we've got these badges, we get them for free. Very nice to see you all. Thank you.